Welcome to Brain Trash. This is the psychiatric podcast that we're talking about things that people are not talking about anywhere else in our community. So today we get to talk a little bit about sensory processing and sex and the relationship, and why, as an autistic or a neurodivergent person, you might think that sex is really uncomfortable, or, want to pull your skin off when people touch you. All of that good stuff. So get ready and tune in if you're interested in this topic, and we're here for it. We're going to talk a little bit about what it's like to have sensory processing disorder or sensory issues and sex. So let's talk a little bit about touch first. We know that autistic people have strong sensitivity to touch. Sometimes that's being super not about it and it hurting. If there's light touch, sometimes it's craving deep pressure. Sometimes it's about feeling suffocated, right? But there's usually some form of sensory sensitivity that's impacting sex. That's what we know, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's 92% of autistic adults reported it in one of the studies. So almost everybody.
Yeah. And if you've ever been one of those people that hates light touch, you feel like you want to rip your skin off. Personally, am one. Can do good with deep pressure, but if somebody is light touching me, my kid, she has to light touch me in order to sleep at night, I just want to kill myself. Literally, it is painful. So if you're neurotypical and a mental health professional listening to this, please know that it is not an over exaggeration. Light touch can be painful to people who are autistic. So then we think about sex and what that could look like if you're having sex with a partner that's new and that person is trying to be sexy and do the light touch and you are in pain. What do you do as an autistic person, right? Do we have the words or the language to be excuse me, you're really bothering my sensory issues right now. Can we please not do that, right?
To rip all of my skin off because of the way that you're
let's not do that. But what are some of the other sensory things that we see for I don't know, for sex in general? For autistic people?
I mean, I think that there's so many things. It's almost never ending, just because there's so many sensory experiences that could happen. There's you may be inviting those things or not. It just it can be the smells of lube, if it's just medically sterile, or has a scent, right, that reminds you of your grandma's house or something like that, right? There's
the smell of genitals too. Don't forget the smell of bodies and genitals. Sweat. Yep, that's a thing.
Yeah, even if it's not something that is a bad smell or a bad sound or whatever, it's just oh, that's there, and that makes that whole experience a different thing than it would be without that. Like buzzing toys, right? If it's super loud and it's
how am I supposed to orgasm when that's so loud, right? No, this vibrator is too loud for me. Make it stop.
This is excessive. So there's all kinds of things. I mean, tactile, lights, smell, lights.
Yeah, lights, fabrics, sheets. Some people are if you go to someone's house you're hooking up with, right? And then they have a different sheet texture, a pillow texture, that can feel gross on your skin if you're naked. It's what do you do in those situations? Or sticky skin in general. Some people are really aversive to that.
Lights,
latex, lights, condoms. Yeah, dude, perfume, that could be a big thing. I did know somebody who was autistic one time, one of my patients, who had a massive aversion to perfume and requested that I never wear perfume during those visits.
I have a few
because she was so sensitive. And I love perfume, so I was bummed. I was I want to just smell like a vanilla cupcake when I leave the house because it makes me feel grounded. But she wasn't having it. It made her really sick, so I couldn't wear it on those days. But when you're fucking somebody who's wearing a lot of cologne, that could be problematic too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I think lights for sure, again, with that being perceived thing, sometimes it's not about the light itself, but about the light making you feel more perceived, right? So whether that's you need blackout curtains and all the lights off, or if your partner is blind and you need them to take their glasses off, right? There's lots of things that can be done in that regard as it relates to lights or just visibility altogether that can be helpful for a sensory experience.
And light is also something that can be super painful. When I go outside, if I don't have sunglasses on, it is literally, my eyes hurt. I used to tell myself it's because my eyes were green, and I was it's just because my eyes are light and they're sensitive. But that's not even it. I just have sensory issues. It's fine, regardless. So if you have to wear sunglasses during sex, you can own that as a costume. It's totally cool.
I mean, I've never
Or
thought of it, but that, I mean, you're onto
I
something.
mean, like maybe you don't have like shades in your room and it's like super sunny and you want to do it in the middle of the day or like on the beach. I don't know. We're not like getting into like the legalities of things here, but like fetishes are fetishes. Someone really might want to do it on the beach, but wear your sunglasses. Like if you need to
There's
protect
too much,
yourself.
oh, there's too much sand at the beach.
See, there's another sensory issue, the fucking sand, right? Or the water. Oh my God, or like shower sex because of the water, right? That could be like a plus or a minus. It could be really regulating to somebody or it could be really like awful to someone else.
The awkwardness of height differences.
Oh, yeah, especially if you are taller than your partner and gender roles and all that goes into it. Yep, the height differences thing really comes into it, especially during hookups too, because you're not prepared for that.
Well, and I
Or
think
like,
now, especially, I mean, like I said, I'm an old lady. I have never had like an actual dating app other than like AOL chats. But like meeting somebody online and then meeting up in person and being like, oh, you're like 3 feet shorter than I expected you to be, or 2 feet taller, or whatever.
what a blessing you've never had to experience that, because I sure have on many, many a Tinder dates and many a Bumble dates and many a coffee meets bagel dates. Yeah.
I've walked a lot of friends through that and been their private investigator to make sure their meetup humans were safe and not murderers.
I mean, like, that's nice, but also, like, I remember, like, meeting up with my now husband, and, like, his profile said 5'8". He's not 5'8". I'm 5'8". So I, like, went and I thought it'd be fine. And he got out of his car, and then, like, I was, like, off the curb, and he's on the curb, and he's still shorter than me. And I was like,
And he still roped you in. Gotcha.
man, how standards change for height.
Must
Just
not have
kidding.
been that much of a deal breaker.
I mean, every dude I've ever dated, I think, has been shorter than me. It's just that. That's my life. This is like tall women problems, but also maybe like neurodivergent, I don't give a fuck problems, because like, what at this point, fucking whatever.
Yep.
um, on the next point of sensory seeking is,
Like that spiraled quickly.
I know, we'll put me aside. I'm going to do my own trauma therapy later. If someone wants to volunteer to be my therapist in the Arizona community, California community, you just hit me up. I got some problems I need to talk about. I'm open. Anyways. Sensory seeking is the other part. So we talked a little bit about sensory avoidant, but then there's also the sensory seeking component where some people are looking for a lot of input and they need a lot of input in order to feel things, in order to like really like get to places, right? That could mean like they are craving deep pressure or biting or spanking or like full body compression, like just drop yourself on top of me and let me feel like that whole like big body there. And someone's like, no, I'm gonna crush you and kill you. And you're like, no, please, I just like the deep pressure. That's totally okay.
I hear this a lot in a non-sexual way too, that like people will have other family members or partners or their pets like lay on top of them for that input. And like if they are having some type of like meltdown or something, like just overwhelmed sensory stuff, they just like prefer that. And I hear that a lot.
It's like a weighted blanket, you know? I think, but it's like a much bigger weighted blanket. The pets, maybe not. I don't know. Marshmallow's pretty chunky though. If she lays on me, I feel like I can't breathe. But yeah, that could be something that could actually make sex a lot more enjoyable if you feel like you need that to regulate, right? And you like know you're that type of person that likes deep pressure, or even like using weighted blankets if you need to for something. I don't know how that could work or like be manipulated, but I'm sure there's some creative things that could like introduce that into the sexual realm. So there's actually some research in this area, a little bit about like pressure and regulation. So there was a qualitative study that was done looking at like quotes about like what do autistic people need during sex. So there were some quotes that we pulled from it. I need more friction to orgasm. Light touching doesn't do anything for me. So this is something who's like, I need more just to feel versus like it's hurting. And then someone else who had mentioned that like orgasm and deep pressure were like the most regulating thing that had ever happened for them. They're like, oh my God, this is what feels grounding. Like my nervous system feels regulated. I don't feel like completely overwhelmed anymore. There's people who talked about like using ropes and like impact play and how that was like super regulating for them. So there's a massive variety about different things that can be explored if you are just a person who enjoys deep pressure in general and you like know you're that person that needs that input. Like bringing that into sex could make sex actually enjoyable for you.
Well, and I think this is another opportunity for people to understand themselves better in either a sexual way or a non-sexual way or both, because there's a lot of times that we don't know these things about ourselves until we know them, right? So really understanding, am I somebody that feels sensations in my body, like interoception, right? Am I somebody that has that and does it well? Am I somebody who's like a low noticing on those things. And, you know, if I can go a whole shift without realizing, oh my gosh, I haven't gone to the bathroom or I haven't eaten food and I'm hungry, things like that can mean that you have less interoception or just less awareness of what's going on inside of your body. And you might need to figure out more, what is it that does actually make me feel good versus what makes me feel bad, and how will I know that in my body if I'm somebody that recognizes it less.
Yeah, and I think that's more one of those things where like you don't have to have a partner to explore that. Like there are so many opportunities for you just to explore your body in like a both sexual and non-sexual way, in a romantic, intimate way, non-sexual, whatever it is. And just have that like self-awareness for yourself to like start asking those questions. Like you mentioned, like, do I notice I'm thirsty? Or am I like at hour 12 of my day and I'm like, I've had, 4 sips of water and I haven't really noticed. Right? So kind of like asking yourself those questions as like the starting base, and then looking for like, what do I enjoy for touch? What do I like hate? What do I like? What do I enjoy for smells? What do I hate for smells? Like kind of like go through the categories of sensory, whether it's like tactile stuff, feels, like do I enjoy soft things? Do I hate the feeling of like skin being on me?
Does having music on help with the strange skin human sounds that are happening? Does it cover up the need to make a sound, right? Like it might be really good for some people. Other people might be like, the music makes it way too intense for me, right?
Or just annoying because that's all you can focus on as like a sensory thing, or there's like too many sounds happening, like the bed is squeaking and there's music, and then there's like other sounds and like the clapping sounds or like not clapping sounds or just like sounds, right? So kind of like assessing that part of yourself too is really important. And then like thinking about like, how do you feel about like oral things? Are you like very like oral aversive? Are you not oral aversive? Temperature, that's another thing that's really interesting. Like, do you get hot easy? Like, do we need to have the AC on? Is that like a discomfort? Or like, do you need to feel like more warm because you're constantly cold? There should be OTs who work with adults too, who can talk a little bit about the desensitization of these things. If you're in like a neuroaffirming area of the country, we know a really good one if you're in Arizona, but you can hit us up for that. It's not everywhere, unfortunately, but regardless, it's like a place for you to explore, or for your partners to explore, or even to explore with your therapist if it's something that you feel like, I'm neurodivergent now and I'm late diagnosed and like I didn't know these things about myself. Yeah, there's just a lot of like areas you can explore in unmasking, kind of like enjoying life and having a better quality of life.
Well, and on that note, a lot of people, again, there's different ways that people are socialized or whatever to believe that there is something inherently like bad or stigmatized or wrong with masturbation. Obviously, you cannot be all day long. I mean, I guess you could be, but like all day, every day masturbating. But there are places and ways that you can safely approach this if it feels like something that you are not able to be like, either you don't have the resources or you just aren't at a place yet where you're ready to talk to a therapist or an OT or somebody about this. Really figuring out, and again, not necessarily in a sexual way, but also through masturbation, like what is happening in your body, what feels good, what feels bad, what things affect it, like environment wise, so that when or if you end up doing that with a partner in the future, you have some semblance of ideas of what you might want to give them as like guidelines, right? You don't need to like make them a spreadsheet. You can if you want, but just figure out what is it that is like, hey, this is like an absolute no for me, versus like, hey, this has promise, or I don't care about this at all, right? And that way you, not only for like partnered sex, but also just for yourself, know like, how am I going to experience the most pleasure when I make myself vulnerable in an intimate situation.
Yeah, for sure. And like remembering too that like there are a lot of autistic folks who identify as asexual. That doesn't mean you are necessarily like not interested in like having your own, right? But it's something to kind of to explore too. Like if you've identified in this, well, is it like that you don't like the sensations and like the sensory things that are related to sex? Or is it like that you feel like you're truly like, I don't need this? Like kind of exploring a little bit of that too, and kind of thinking on, I guess like kind of like opening our eyes to like how sensory input can just impact us in so many different realms that we don't realize. Because I think like when you're in the situation, you're not gonna be like, oh, I see that the lights are bothering me, and like, oh, these sheets are really like making my skin crawl. I think it's sometimes so many different things that you can feel kind of shut down.
Yeah, well, and I think too, when you're looking at it that way, like, so that you're not in a place where you're in that situation going, oh no, in this moment, how am I supposed to tell this person what I want and don't want? More so, especially if you are somebody who potentially isn't sure if that's even something that you want to pursue. Kind of like you were talking about the desensitization part, right? Where like
Mhm.
you spend that time not going beyond anything that you are wanting to do or have the desire to do, but figuring out, is there parts of this that do actually feel good to me? And I have this aversion because of that social aspect or because of the
Right.
thought of what this will be like with a partner, and doing that in a slower way to like desensitize yourself or your sensory sensitivities.
Yeah, for sure. And kind of even evaluating like what does sex look like after and like how do I feel after sex? Like do I feel happy and like I get to like have proper like aftercare and I'm cuddling with my partner, or like do I not prefer to cuddle and do I get to like just get up and go on with my day because that's what I prefer, like, you know, clean myself or shower or whatever it is. But also looking at like what can happen when we have delayed sensory processing or sensory overstimulation that occurs, and realizing that is something that can occur after sex and that is like very normal if you have a shutdown. So what can a shutdown look like if we see like sensory overprocessing?
Well, I mean, I think for a lot of people, it's like just can be best explained as like a freeze, right? Like lots of emotions, but so many that you're not really sure which ones they are, right? Needing to not talk to people or have space away from people, which can be perceived as like, I didn't have a good time with you, or, you know, whatever that is. It's not necessarily the, again, what we see in a movie, which is the cuddling and all that, and
The
nobody gets in a
talking.
shower, which is kind of weird.
Mhm.
Like,
You know,
um,
depending on what's happened.
right, right. Um, and then also potentially if you are not somebody that goes into more of a freeze state but experiences more outward emotions, it may look like, you know, if you are somebody that has meltdowns or panic attacks or things like that, um, you might experience that outward expression of emotions too in a way that feels really intense, and then be really confused by, why did I respond that way in that situation after experiencing that?
Yeah, and I think like that might confuse partners or like might make like a partner more hesitant to be like, well, maybe it was me, right? Or like, what did I do wrong? Even if you are the partner of somebody who does this, right? Like, what did I do wrong? Why are they like avoiding me after sex? Like, did I do something wrong? Like, was it not good? And they're like, no, I'm fine. I just need some space. And you're like, but why? I want to cuddle. Like having those conversations with the partner and kind of working to understand that maybe they are having sensory overstimulation and like maybe they're having like, you know, that was too much social and like too much eye contact and I'm just burnt and like maybe it was just too many like feelings and too many sensations going on and they just need to like come back, but it doesn't necessarily mean like it's coldness, right? Or like rejection. It might just be part of processing the whole interaction that happened
Well,
and
and if there's
finding
that
ways to like,
delay in the sensory processing too, like you might not have the bandwidth to even talk
mhm,
about like, oh, that was good, or oh, I needed this from you
oh,
until
thanks, you
later.
know, great job
Yeah.
kind of thing. Yeah. And like this needs to be conversations. These conversations should always be held outside of sex, like outside of a sexy time, not after sex, like not when emotions are heightened or sensory things are heightened. Like this should always be at like a safe place at another time, whether or not this is like, you know, a one-time partner of like, hey, X, Y, and Z, I don't like that. I'm just gonna leave afterwards and just set the stage. Or if it is a long-term relationship or marriage or whatever that is, just kind of like here are my boundaries and this is what I need after. Like, what does the after look like? I get really overstimulated. Some people come home from work and they're like happy to say, like, I just need my 10 minutes. Leave me the fuck alone for 10 minutes when I get home. But then when it comes to sex, they're not going to be like, leave me the fuck alone after. Because it sounds a little bit meaner, right?
I feel like some of the like studies as well with the more quoted stuff from participants
Hmm.
is like just really sums a lot of this up really well. Like, it was like my body couldn't catch up with what had just happened. I just needed to hide. I couldn't process what was happening. I needed to curl up and not talk after, not because I didn't like it, but because my whole body was too full of everything. Describing a need to disconnect. After sex, I go nonverbal. Sometimes it's not bad. It's just what my brain does to come back to baseline. And then looking at like, I can enjoy sex in the moment, but then it hits me after and I get overwhelmed and I can't speak. I just need to lie down alone. Right. And so this can also be similar to that, like in any social situation, that overload of like coming home after a big thing where you maybe had a lot of conversations and it was like, I performed really well. And now I just need to like wind
Exactly.
down and not exist for just a minute.
Exactly. And like that's totally okay. And like not it doesn't make you a bad person, or it doesn't make you like cold or like not connected. Like you can still feel very internally connected, but like sometimes that does take time afterwards to like just come down from the experience, right? Because like it's a lot of perception and it's a lot of things and it's a lot of like sensory things in general. So looking at stats just to like make sure that you don't feel alone or your patients are not alone in what they feel, and to kind of give some insight into kind of what kind of things to assess if you are working with them on enjoying sex more. So we talked a little bit about 92% of adults who are autistic have some sort of a sensory issue that's impacting them during sex, right? Tactile hypersensitivity, number one. So touch things, light touch. Is it painful, like needing a deep pressure, that type of thing? Number one. Anything like sound wise would be the second most common thing. So things like the bed squeaking can like totally fuck it up for you, where, you know, the wrong music comes on. That can totally fuck it up and cause you to like shut down and just like, I can't right now, sorry. And then like leave. And then your partner's like, what did I do wrong? And it's like, no, the bed was squeaking, honey. I'm so sorry. Also, like smells could be a thing. So people talk about, like, we talked about lube, we talked about perfume, like the smell of sweat and bodies. Like bodies are gross and they have smells with them. Like the smell of like ejaculation, right? That has a smell to it. So if like, depending on if you're with a woman or with a man or whatever it is, right? Like whatever you're into, like those have smells associated with them. And that could be like very off-putting for some people, and not necessarily like in a personal way, but in a like, oh my God, I'm sorry, I have a sensory issue kind of way. Um, yeah, those are pretty much like the bigger things. So then it kind of comes to like, what what do we do about it, right? Like what can we recommend for people, for mental health professionals and for like the neurodivergent community?
Well, I think first and foremost, like a lot of times when we have sensory aversions, it will get labeled as low libido. So, like as a med provider, asking somebody when they say like, "Oh, I'm having sexual side effects from my medication," asking them what that means, and in a way that doesn't make them uncomfortable, but like, is it the physical aspect is not working out? Is it you just don't want to? Is it doesn't feel good when you do want to? Right? And helping to understand what is it that's contributing to this. Obviously can be the meds, but also is there other sensory things that we can recommend, or tools, education, stuff like that can be given to help them understand if it is purely low libido or if there is other things happening. um, Making sure that the environment matches the things that you find about yourself that are important, right? So if you need the blackout curtains and the soft music and the bed
The
that doesn't
glasses off.
squeak and your glasses off and whatever the fuck else, making sure that you have that set up, weighted blankets, body pillows,
White noise.
yeah, all of these
Or not
things.
white noise. Yeah.
Clean sheets. If you're like, I need hypoallergenic clean sheets and they have to smell like my laundry detergent, you
And
might
no
want to
crumbs, because
have
crumbs can
them
be
in
really disruptive.
crumbs.
No
Yes, no
crumbs.
crumbs in your bed at all times, not just sex.
Yeah, that's number one pet peeve for me
Um,
in general.
so if you're somebody that's like going on Tinder dates a lot and going to other people's houses is problematic. Obviously, safety first, don't invite murderers to your house. But if being in your own bed, it might be better for you in a sensory way, maybe figuring out how to do that in a safe way. Um, or if there's certain like times of day or whatever, like making sure that you understand your sensory needs as it relates to sex as a neurodivergent human, or as a therapist or mental health practitioner or med management provider for somebody that's also going through the same like realization about themselves.
Yeah, and like setting those boundaries really strong of like, this is what I need, this is what I can't have, this is what I really like, and like this is what after is going to look like making it predictable for yourself, especially like if you're in the hookup stage. I think that as a therapist or as a mental health professional in general, like helping people to understand that they are allowed to set those boundaries, especially in hookup situations, and helping them script them could be really beneficial if they are neurodivergent. Giving them tools for sensory things that might help it be more enjoyable, helping them to understand like consent around these things, or like if it's just not vibing, how do I say no and get out of the situation and not just get coerced into doing an unwanted thing that I don't want to and I'm not going to enjoy because I'm already here and my clothes are off. Like, what am I supposed to do? So scripting those situations so that way, like, we can start changing the statistics backwards and like let's have less negative experiences for people. On the med front, I was thinking about this too, is like for people who have comorbid ADHD and autism, which is fairly common, that it can be really, really, really overstimulating in the way that like there are too many things going on and you don't have a place for your brain to stop and focus and it's hard to enjoy anything on that front. And then like there's sensory things going on and like you're just feeling too much and you just want to kill yourself during sex. Like it might help to take medication before, like you might want to like pre-med with some Adderall if it works for you during the day to like feel less hypersensitive to things. There are a lot of people who feel less irritable and more tolerant of sensory stimulation when they take their ADHD medication. So like making sure that's timed out with your ADHD medication could be really beneficial and just like more enjoyment.
There's also like with like serotonergic meds, if you are somebody who has less sensation when you're on those, depending on the half-life of the medication, right? So like an SSRI, SNRI, DCAs, like you can wait until, and again, it doesn't always work out in everybody's lifestyle, but if you know like, hey, I'm gonna pursue some sexual stuff tonight, but I take my medication at night, maybe not taking your medication until after so that it's not at like a peak serum level at the time that you're trying to experience sensations in your body.
Yeah, so actually like looking at that as a lifestyle thing too, like this is something as med providers we should be kind of assessing with our patients, like depending if we have short half-life medications that are affecting sexual function, like can we time that administration to be at a different point, right? Where it's not going to be like, maybe can we give it first thing in the morning if it's not for sleep? That way, like it's not, you know, right at night, where they're having like, you know, at dinner or whatever, and then they're not able to perform or like enjoy anything. So that's a big
We'll
thing.
ask people about that specifically, and I will say like, what time are you more likely to, like if they're complaining about sexual side effects of their medications, I will ask them about timing of that just so that we can figure out a better administration schedule.
That's actually, yeah, that's really important. I was trying to think of other medications that might be important with. I mean, I wouldn't take anything that's like drying. I wouldn't be taking clonidine right before or anything like that. Like that's not going to help with like the lubrication if you have that issue. Maybe with some sleepiness. Viagra is an option for sometimes like if you have significant sexual side effects. There's options like Wellbutrin, like Buspar, Abilify, or other types of medications can help with that. There are like some pretty significant sexual dysfunctions that can occur with various like medications, so it's something we need to be aware of.
And because we know people within lots of the communities that we've talked about over the last few episodes are more likely to have mental health care encounters, there's also the likelihood that they are more going to be on mental health medications. And I think it's important to make sure that you know how all of these can affect somebody's sexual experiences so that as a provider, you can be the most holistic provider that you can and not take away things from somebody's life that might be the only thing causing them joy, right? And that's not always necessarily the healthiest thing to be like, oh, if I can't have an orgasm, I have suicidal ideations. But at the same time, looking at that risk versus benefit.
For sure. And just to kind of step back too and assess a little bit on like the substance stuff, and make sure that like if people are admitting to drinking or using marijuana before every sexual encounter, right? Like that is something we should be asking, especially for neurodivergent folks. Like, do we feel like we have to self-medicate with substances to like numb ourselves out? Are we getting like super high before? Are we like getting a little fucked up before because like it makes it a little bit more tolerable? And kind of looking at what are our other options here, right? Like let's explore that a little bit more and sit on that a little bit more, and how do we make sex less uncomfortable? Or is this like the only thing that you find that makes like touch tolerable for you? And sex doesn't necessarily have to be touch.
Yeah, so like lowering of inhibitions, right? I mean, exactly what we're looking at when we talk about alcohol specifically, right? That GABA being something that causes you to not have as much things inhibiting your experience. And so asking yourself, why is it that I feel like I need to inhibit anything about who I am or how I experience life before I go into the specific situation? And how can I, better accomplish that with something that maybe doesn't have as many long-term side effects if done too often or, other things.
Yeah. And Yeah, yeah. And I was thinking like for hookup culture too, like how we could have like avoid that, but I feel like that's almost inevitable because of like the social pressures and so many things. Like I just see why it happens. I guess you're really blessed for never having to go into your Tinder era, but late divorced woman over here, early divorced woman. I guess I got divorced in my 20s. So like, I went through my Tinder era and it was rough, dude. It's rough out there. But and it's like rough for advocating for yourself. So I really understand that for like a lot of our patients in their 20s who are kind of, and even like 18, 19, just kind of exploring things, or even like people getting divorced in their 30s now, kind of like entering into this world of like, well, fuck, everything's different. And like if you're neurodivergent, it's like a million times fucking harder.
Well, and going back to what you were saying before too, because I was like, I want to say this, but we like went on a tangent that was great. So I'm like, I got to come back and remember this because I say this to people all the time about other stuff too, that just because it feels to you like it's not the right way to do it, to like literally pull out your phone and read a script, like you can do that. That's allowed. And so if you're in a position where you are meeting up with people off of dating apps or whatever, and you want to script something out with your therapist or with your friend or whatever, and literally write it down, and like before you enter into that agreement with this human, like, yes, hello, we're doing this thing, and I know this isn't super sexy, but I'm going to pull out my phone and read this thing to you because it's really important to me that we both have a really good experience, a consensual experience, right? Like, and you can say that and do that however you want, but sometimes it's a lot easier if you have it written down. So I will have people, even in like work situations and other stuff that's not sexual, yeah, script it, but then trying to remember a script in the moment when
Oh my
emotions are
God,
really
yeah.
high, that's just not going to happen. And you're going to forget some of it and then think about it for the next 7 business years about how you didn't ask that person to not turn on the lights, you know?
And low key, if it's like in the moment and that person has to go to the bathroom or something, just have Chat GPT on your phone and ask that shit real quick, like in the moment, like tell it what you need. It can give you something like in the moment, whether it's like get me the fuck out of the situation or like tell me something sexy or like what do I do? There's crumbs in the bed. Like
How do
it
I
might
think
just
that
give
the
you some,
sound of this person is making is really not
it's
okay
horrible.
for me?
Yeah, like what do I tell them to like not sound like a dick, but also like help? ChatGPT is an amazing resource that can be used, and like you can even say that you have to pee really quick before, because you just have to pee before, and then just go and ChatGPT some shit in the bathroom, and like it will be magic. If you are neurodivergent, this shit is magic for social
But
situations.
like, where are you going to hide your phone? Because like now I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, where would you like, do you just pick up your phone and go to the
Oh, I
bathroom? That's not weird.
absolutely. Even if you're naked, that's fine. Like your phone should be next
Like
to you, right?
tucking
Like
under a boob or something.
yeah, or like in your balls, I guess. Like that's totally fine.
Okay.
Like I feel like everybody takes their phone to the bathroom. It's like you wouldn't leave your wallet or your purse if you're in a restaurant, right? Like even if you're like in a hookup situation. Bro, you're so old. You don't even know. It's like talking to a grandma over.
I'm
You've never been
literally
in
like
these
5 days
situations.
older than you. Shut up.
No, that's like the fucked up thing. Like your experiences are grandma experiences.
I
That's
mean,
so,
not all of them, but the ones shared
yeah,
here, yes. Very
the
grandma
ones here. The
experiences.
little grandma. It's okay. Your kids will listen to this someday and be like, man, my mom is she never
Such
lived.
a
I know.
just vanilla,
Boring,
bad,
boring,
sad
boring.
lady.
All right, guys. So I think we've kind of covered everything on like advocating for yourself and looking at like, varying sensory inputs, whether it's like using candlelight or blackout curtains or like different textures or like making your partner wear clothes if the skin thing really like grosses you out, right? Like wearing loop earplugs. Like there's so many different things that you could experiment with. And like number one is going to be advocating for yourself.
I think too, the one thing that we didn't touch on either is there are a lot of situations where one partner is autistic and the other is not, right? And so looking at if you are the non-autistic partner, initiating those conversations might be really helpful because your autistic partner may not realize that there are things about themselves that they don't yet know in terms of sensory stuff. There's probably a lot of things they do
So
know and just haven't said to you because it feels really awkward to them. And so bringing that up in a way that you are kind of initiating and feeling like you are interested in understanding what they do and do not want.
yeah, and I think even just like late diagnosed people in general, right? Because like I think so many late diagnosed people, neurodivergent, even like neurotypical partners, like whoever it is, like if you notice your partner has certain preferences or like aversions during any like just day-to-day interaction or romantically, intimately, like sexually, like bring it up and like have a conversation about it so that way it can be like on the table and you can have a better understanding and you're not just like playing around it, assuming things. We shouldn't be assuming, right? Like Or like, oh, they really like when I hold their hand tight. Like maybe they really hate when you, I don't know, like push on them too hard when with your hands or something. Like I don't know. I don't know what it is.
And like you said with late diagnosed, that then made my brain think of this of like people who are diagnosed in childhood, like they are given these tools about themselves. They're given OT, PT, speech rate, all these things to understand themselves and understand what their needs are in a sensory way. So that may also correlate with why the sexual experiences are later, because if you are trying to mask your own sensory stuff and then doing this like, hey, I'm really susceptible to like coercion and scripting and all of that, I'm likely to get in a more sexual situation faster than somebody who says, well, yeah, maybe I want to have sex with that person, but like the environment wouldn't be right for my sensory needs, so I'm going to hold off, right? So,
Well, that, and I think that like a lot of these people have parents who have sheltered them extra if they knew they were autistic because they're like, no, he's autistic, he's not going to have sex ever. And it's like, no, that's not how it works. And we talked a little bit about sex education, but also that like autism is, despite what RFK thinks, it is fucking genetic. So like there are probably autistic parents there, probably two. Really, realistically, there's probably two autistic parents who didn't know how to talk about sex and like their parents didn't talk about it and like generational things and like stigma and like it just wasn't talked about. And if it was talked about, it wasn't talked about well or in like context of like how does this work for autism. So like this is our point, even if you are an autistic like mom of autistic children listening, to start thinking about like how will you have those conversations to ensure that like when your children are in their adulthood they can have like an enjoyable quality of life. And like that, awkwardly enough, includes sex. Like, you know, I know that not everybody wants to think about that for their kids, but unfortunately that is like a place that like kids need to learn to advocate for themselves, whether it's like on consent or on just enjoying things, right?
well, and talking about these things early and often gives people a language to say what they need to say in a way that's safe and protective of their dignity and human rights, right? I think a lot of times when we say, oh, we're talking to children about sex, it's very much like stigmatized that it's, you know, we're trying to sexualize kids or turn them queer or whatever, right?
Yeah. But here's gay porn kind of thing. And it's like, no, Republicans, that's not what we're doing, homie.
Yeah, well, and like your kid is gonna find that out, whether you tell them or not. And so being the person that introduces these concepts to them in a way that feels safe and okay to you, in whatever way your value system aligns with, but doing it in a way that you get to be at the driver's seat of what that looks like for your kid instead of them falling into these Reddit rabbit holes of what is out there in the world.
Yeah. And like weird communities or like, you know, in our day it was AOL chat rooms that we all fell into. By we all, I'm, you know, hopefully you didn't as a millennial if you're listening, but I hear you if you didn't. So thank you guys for tuning in to our episode on like sensory sensitivity. Thanks for tuning in to our episode on sensory sensitivities, sex, and all things like neurodivergence and sex. We hope that you enjoyed our little like trio opening to season 2. Hopefully you can leave us some comments, leave us your thoughts, leave us your experiences, leave us things that we like misspoke on because we want to learn and we always want to educate ourselves, and anything you want to see for future episodes. So look forward to next week's episode and we'll have a surprise for you guys. Thanks for tuning in.